Hello, hello, Omaha. What's up? What's going on? What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? How y'all doing tonight? I know it's kind of low in here because there's not a lot of people yet, but people are coming, so I'm gonna need a little bit more noise. How y'all doing tonight? Yes, there we go, there we go. So first of all, welcome to Scott Hall at the Holland Center at Omaha Performing Arts. I am Aaron Durrell Gregory, the Community Engagement Manager, and I am excited to invite you, to welcome you to our very first Culture Talk of the 23-24 season. Let's go, let's give it up, let's go. So, tonight we are here for a dope conversation to hear about the element of music production by way of DJ, by way of hitting all the different production notes. I don't know all of them, so I'm not even gonna pretend, but that's why these experts are here. So we have Mr. Light Pole on the end, Omaha's own artist and producer. We have founder of Culxr House, artist and producer Marcey Yates. And we also have Cincinnati native legendary producer and rapper Hi-Tek coming all the way from Cincinnati, Ohio, moderated by Omaha's own DJ / audio engineer, Kethro. All right, so I'm gonna let Kethro take it away. Enjoy yourself. Please go visit the bar if you need to. Let's have a good conversation. Take it away, Kethro.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the OPA. Seriously, this is the third time I've moderated a panel, and I'm just going to say this right now. They're like, time is the enemy. And I was like, all right, cool. Because how many were at the previous two panels? Raise your hands at Culxr House. Okay, so some of you, we love to talk, so please bear in mind with us. But thank you to the OPA. Seriously, it means a lot. These types of things is what's going to help move the culture forward, especially here in Omaha and beyond. So we already did a little bit of the introductions, but I want to tell y'all a little story. This is a hip-hop story, and some of you know it, some of you may not, but I wanted to give you a little knowledge dart to kind of kick this evening off with, and I think it will be a good story to kind of give you an emphasis on what moves this culture. So imagine the scene. July 13th, 1977, the Bronx, New York City. DJ Grandmaster Caz and Disco Wiz took over the 183rd Street Park for a battle that would go down in history. DJ Eddie of the Master Plan crew was a confident young talent who wanted to challenge Caz and Wiz because he heard Caz and Wiz were the owners of these parties. And so he wanted to show his side of the realm. Of course, Caz and Wiz were like, all right, we'll see what this cat's about. Come to the park, set up your sound system, set up your records. So Eddie, armed with the sound system and records, he set everything up. Park's hot. It's like 95 degrees out. It's night. Some people were smoking dust. It's kind of getting wild out there, And if you know anything about the Bronx in the 70s, it was a wild place. So Eddie's shaking. He starts playing this disco track. Okay, crowd's kind of feeling it. The disco rhythms, the hi-hats, the patterns, they're kind of into it, but they needed something a little bit more. So, unimpressed, Caz and Wiz threw on this legendary record called Apache. Oh yeah, that's the one. That was the money. Crowd went insane. Everybody in the park started losing it because that one break was the break that got the break dancers moving, grooving. It got everybody. It had the single mothers cheering out the windows, maybe Michael Jackson holding the baby out the window. I don't know. I wasn't there. But as Apache pumped through the speakers, nature started to take its full. It was a really hot, kind of a gloomy day. So a sudden series of lightning strikes ended up hitting a Con Edison cable, which is about north of the Hudson River, which is north of Manhattan, which kicked off this massive series of blackouts that sparked, and one by one, lights just started going out in Manhattan. Boom, 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 boom. As Apache's spinning, The dust bunnies in the corner are wiling out, single mothers wiling out. This record started slowing down, and the lights in the park start turning off, and nobody knows what's happening. Nobody understands what's going on. But what are the first thing happens when we lose electricity? Panic ensues. So, of course, Kaz and Wiz, first thing they do, they pull out the heat because they know that the cats smoking dust in the corner were going to come for after their equipment. So they started protecting the block. They started protecting their stuff. Nobody knows what happened to Eddie. Eddie is out of the story now. He lost. Apache destroyed him anyway, so best of luck to Eddie. But once the whole park and the whole neighborhood was out, people were scrambling. Kaz told Wiz, hey, get the homies, make sure this stuff is secure. I'll be right back. Wiz, very, very frustrated, was like, where are you going, dude? Like, where are you going? I'll be back. 15 minutes later, Kaz comes back with a brand new Clubland 2-channel mixer. I mean, at the time, this mixer was so expensive. It was one of those things, it's like looking at the Louis Vuitton bag in the window. You know you want it, but you can't get it. And that was a moment. Now, this was one small story of the many, many occurrences that happened in that 2-day span of the 1977 New York blackouts. But there's one thing for sure, and if you go and look into the history books, is that everybody who was involved in hip-hop at the time has probably a piece of equipment they somehow procured during that blackout, whether it was from somebody's house or a store or somewhere. But the reason why I'm telling you this story is because it was sort of a moment, and we saw a spark happen in the years after, where the music started getting interesting, the music started getting more unique, and it started to become something that we just knew was going to take over the planet. So in 1980, there's a couple of designers, really, really amazing men, one named Roger Lynn, and these other designers in Japan who they called the 808 Mafia. I'm not kidding, that was their name. And these guys made 2 machines in 1980, 3 years later, that were kind of the answer to this strange occurrence happening from in New York. And that was the 808 drum machine, which is a synthesizer, actually, and the Lynn drum, which if you listen to any Prince song in the 80s, you'll hear those sounds. These 2 machines had a really interesting outcome because not only were they influenced by the music, these cats are listening to the music and how it changed in New York and around the world, but they also wanted an answer to it. Of course, the Lynn drum machine and the 808 were very inaccessible machines. So nobody who lived in the Bronx could afford them. But luckily, the 808 didn't sell too well. They sold about 12,000 units, and then what happened was they just, Roland and Japan, the Roland company in Japan were like, just stop making them. So then what happened? Prices had plummeted. The 808 became cheap. It went from a $4,000 machine down to a $150 machine. What happened again? History repeats itself. Somehow, some way, those who can afford the $150 machine suddenly had one in their studio. And then what did we get from that? Run DMC, great example. I can name so many names based upon that machine becoming affordable and starting a revolution. So I hope when you go home tonight and you're listening to music, or you're listening to this music, and you hear an 808 machine or a Lynn drum, know that it sparked from these occurrences that happened. And it sparked from what I like to call a blackout or a downfall of something. And that's, my friends, is what we're going to discuss today. It's not the downfall, but essentially just a great history of how production plays a very, very important role in this whole hip-hop movement. It's literally the backbone of this whole movement. Without the sounds, there wouldn't be anything else. So I'm really excited to introduce these 3 right here. So I wrote these interesting introductions because I don't like to name names. I don't want to name drop the whole time. So we're just going to start and try to keep it real broad. But Mr. Lite over here. Omaha, often overlooked in the hip-hop panorama, finds its voice in Lite music. He represents not just himself, but also the aspirations and challenges of a community, channeling the spirit of resilience into his verses. His stage presence, electrifying and magnetic, transforms every performance into an immersive experience, leaving audiences captivated and inspired. Beyond his musical endeavors, Lite embodies the spirit of dedication and perseverance. He stands as a beacon of hope for aspiring artists in Omaha, proving that talent knows no geographical bounds. With every lyric, he challenged stereotypes, breaks barriers, and elevates the art of hip-hop, paving a way for new generations of artists in the Midwest. Next, I'd like to talk about Marcey Yates, who actually, we're related, which is kind of funny. In the vibrant tapestry of contemporary music, Marcey Yates stands as a multifaceted artist, a true alchemist of sound who weaves intricate melodies and heartfelt lyrics into a soul-string compositions. Born with an innate passion for music, Marcey embarked on a transformative journey through the realms of rhythm and rhyme, emerging as a beacon of creativity and authenticity. I don't have to explain what this man has done for the city of Omaha with one single place, but Google this man. They'll tell you a little bit further. And last but not least, I'd like to introduce Hi-Tek. Renowned as the maestro of rhythm, Hi-Tek stands tall in the pantheon of hip-hop producers, his beats resonating across the industry and shaping the sound of a generation. Hi-Tek emerged from Cincinnati, Ohio, armed with a profound passion for music and an innate talent for crafting beats that pulse with life. From the underground rap scene to the mainstream prominence, Hi-Tek's musical journey has been marked by innovation and authenticity. His production style, characterized by soulful melodies, intricate samples, and hard-hitting drums, creates a distinctive sonic landscape that captures the essence of hip-hop's raw energy and profound lyricism. So please give a hand for these three right here, please. I'm so just honored and privileged. I'm such a fan of these three individuals. So I'm really excited to talk to them. And those who know me, you know how excited I am to talk to these people. The first topic I want to talk about is the studios and the machines that made us. Because obviously this topic is about production, and this is about the creation of the bedrock of hip-hop. So I want to start with something that I truly am curious about, and that is the studios that made us, the studios that we found our craft in. And I just want to ask, many legendary artists have their favorite studios, but I'm kind of curious to know about a particular space that you got your start in that maybe sparked the initial interest or sparked the passion to tell yourself, this is the route that I'm going to take. This is where I'm going to spend the rest of my life in. And I actually want to kick it off with Lite because I'm really curious about your beginnings, because you're the person I know the least about in the production world. I'll be honest.
Okay. I'll say, what's happening, y'all? Whoop. So I've been, and thank you for that intro, bro. I had to second guess if that was me you was talking about. They got some good writers at OPA. I'm 33 now. I've been making beats for about 20 years, so I started when I was like 12 years old. And so I'm one of the middle children when it comes to like technology and like hip hop, right? So I ain't never used no beat machine. I'm Fruity Loops. You feel me? I had to download it on the old, take 2-3 hours for the file to hit your computer. You feel me? And that was just a demo version. You know what I'm saying? Have to go through online and try to find a register key. So I've been making beats on Fruity Loops, started at 3. I think they up to like 21, 22 now. But I started in my grandma's basement on like Windows 98 or something.
Perfect.
You know what I'm saying? Fruity Loops. Yeah.
Tek, what about you?
How y'all doing? I started off, I don't want to show my age too much, but a Casio SK5.
Nice, yeah.
You know about that?
Yes.
But it was a keyboard made by Casio that had like 2-second sample time on it. And I would speed up the records, to, like 100 miles per hour, just speed it up and just to try to make the perfect loop. But I think all of that processing from, just experimental, just having whatever equipment that I was able to get my hands on, it gave me the technical knowledge. So when I got some quality equipment, it just made it that much easier. So that was one of the pieces that I used was a Casio SK5 and HR16. What is it? HR16 Elise's drum machine.
Yeah, those had like
like
the little circle pads on it. Was that the
No,
one?
it
you're
was
talking
like square, rectangular.
Okay.
Had some pads on it, but
Yeah, okay.
I had a lot of older guys like mentor me, to show me different things. But yeah, I really would try to make beats on whatever I can get my hands on. Like even with the tape decks, I would try to pause mix. Pause mixing is when you take when you had dual tape decks, and you would hit pause real quick after you record, and then you have to time it really good. Take off pause and record the other half, and just try to get a lucky guess on a loop. But I come from those days, so all of that kind of helped me get. So once I got my hands on some good equipment, quality equipment, it just was easy after that.
And to put a pin in that, because I want to come back around to the next steps. But Marcey, what about you? I'm curious about your start.
Oh yeah. So my start, like Poe was saying, like software, and I always knew what I wanted to use, right? So growing up, I studied producer, so I always wanted an MPC, but I couldn't afford one at the time. So much like him, we like download the demo version of Fruit Loops, right? And I would go from there, export like 8 bars, and then go on to Ableton, and then like track out stuff. But when I when I got my first refund check, during college though, I went and bought an MPC and I bought a computer. So I bought my works and start studying from that point. How to use the thing. So again, like my favorite producers, I would study what they was using. And that's what I wanted. But you gotta make it work with what you got at the time. So, man, if I wasn't sampling, I was trying to make the original sound like a sample. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And for those that don't know, an MPC, which will be my next question, but an MPC is essentially a sequencer machine. So what that did was, in the beginning, it was used kind of like the laptop is now. It was the brain of the operation. So, for example, an MPC would be in the center of your studio, and that would send out all the data to the keyboards and all the stuff to tell them what to do. But these cats here would take that and flip it into another way, and that's kind of what I wanted to get to is, the game-changing machines. And Tech, I know that the MPC is very integral to your creation period, as well as you, Marcey. And I'm pretty sure Tech Lightpole, your Windows 98 machine probably had some software on it that was inspired by the MPC. So going into this particular machine and understanding it and using it in a different way, because the MPC became this machine where you figured out how to use samples and how to sequence those samples and to create beats and to use samples instead of sending information language to other machines. How did these machines change the way you produce, and do they still play an important role into how you produce today?
Yeah, still to this day, I still use the MPC 3000, and I've used. I started off with the MPC 60, which is the first version of the MPC, which is made by Roger Lynn. He had 3 different versions, which was the MPC 60, then he had the 62, and then he had the 3000. Prior to getting my hands on a 60, like I said, I was using whatever I can get my hands on. But the 60 really made it easy. It just was everything I had dreamed of at the time. It really sounded broad to me compared to what I had. It allowed me to sample as much as I wanted to. And it also had the sequencing power where you could still make drum patterns, which I was already doing on the Elise's drum machine. So I was combining the 2 elements, sampling and programming drums. But like anything, is like a learning curve with new technology, and so I had to learn it. And you gotta, I'm big on like whatever equipment you use, it kind of develops your sound on its own, because you kind of a slave to it no matter what,
right?
Because that's just the way they made the machine. So the way it kind of changed my sound is just the way Roger Lynn formulated, if that makes sense. You know, but it was so fun to get my hands on something that, you know, helped me create what I dreamed of creating, you know. And as time goes on with technology, you know, it's like the sky's the limit, you know. And it's really, it's in between what you thinking of creatively and what that machine is actually capable, you know, doing. So,
Yeah.
you know, the MPC was like my first love with making beats.
And I noticed with this particular machine, and a lot of other cats I speak to about these machines, and even my experience, there's two components of this machine that I feel like made all of your sounds unique, and that's the timing, the swing, how beats do this, and also the limitations. It was a very limiting machine. It didn't seem like there was a lot of space. Like at the time, you know, floppy disks, which some of you may know what floppy disks are. Others probably have never seen one in your life.
Yeah, but the MPC was like, it's also, it's like I still learn things on it still to this day because it's also a MIDI controller.
Right.
So I've been to like, back when I first got my hands on it, and like you meet somebody that like actually may not be a producer, but they actually know how to work everything on the MPC, and it runs a light show and everything.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I didn't know that. I mean, I didn't need it for that, but you know.
Yeah.
But the MIDI controller, it's called MPC, stands for MIDI Production Center,
Right.
and it controls everything. I mean, light shows, other keyboards through MIDI, but it does so much. It's really still a solid machine, really it is. But a lot of people don't use it because you know you got software and you know different equipment, but
Yeah.
every piece of equipment has its own sound, so to say, too.
Heard. I wanna go back to studios, atmospheres. You have your technology. Y'all are in the zone. You're making beats, but I really want to talk about experience, like in studios, and how your approach to making music goes in these spaces, in your safe spaces or whatever you may call them. So I'm curious to know, like, what is your ideal atmosphere when you cats are going to create and going to start your creation process? Are you like a Badu type? You need candles and incense, or do you care if it's just white walls and hospital lights? Like, what is your initial vibe? What is it about that kickstarts the creative pattern?
I think my initial vibe is just having a good room in general, you know, something with all the equipment hooked up properly so you can, it's all about workflow. I'm big on workflow. I got something I call the flow technique because it's all about the flow. If you gotta go into a studio and something's not working or you have a bad wire, something buzzing, because you know, the main thing is getting quality. Your whole agenda should be making quality music.
Yeah.
And then you go into a studio and everything's not working properly. So my thing is going into a studio that's, you know, the equipment actually works properly.
Yeah.
You know,
Heard.
You know, workflow.
What about you two? Like, where do you two approach? You like, where do you get the spark started, or do you even mind, or are you very particular?
Well, so for me, I like kind of like a lot of people. You get to start in your own, like your home studio, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of used to just having like your space, but for me, the studio gotta be clean first, right? Like I can't, if wires is everywhere and stuff is everywhere, I can't, you know what I'm saying, I can't focus, right? So it gotta be clean first, and then I need time by myself to get set, right? And it just depends on my mood for the day, if I want somebody or not. Like, if I'm working for myself, then, you know, I don't, like, need a hype man, you know what I mean? Like, it just depends on how I feel, so I'll, like, start off by just, like, clean the studio, but put on a record to just listen to. And then it's, like, as soon as, like, something catch my ear, then, like, everything stops, and then I'll just, like, start working on that, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, what is this? Let me catch this sample real quick, or let me do something with this, or if, you know, I got some beats playing and some rhymes come to my head, then I'm about to, you know, start writing real quick, you know what I mean? But when I went to school out in Arizona, though, I got the experience of just hanging in big studios, right? And so I got accustomed to that, you know, we was talking about that earlier, like, man, going from there, then the home studio ain't like the same, right? You know what I mean? So I prefer like the space and having all the bells and whistles, you know, even if you ain't gonna use them all, you know what I'm saying? But just having a nice space and that atmosphere. I like to feel like it's real, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes at home, you know, it's just at home, right? But then you step out and you get into, you know, the bigger studio, and then you're looking at them boards, the SSLs, the APIs, and, you know what I'm saying, the Mackeys and stuff, right? It's like, nah, this is it, you know what I mean? You seeing more than one channel, you seeing all of these channels, you seeing all of these things that you can use and touch, even if you ain't gonna use them though, you know what I mean? And the point is that you just wanna be inspired before you create, you know what I mean? Like, man, if you don't feel like creating, then why you can't just be like, I'm just about to create, like, you gotta feel like that, you know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
So we talking about like the environment.
Yeah, like what's the ideal environment for you to create hits?
Smoke and darkness.
Okay.
I'm gonna just be all the way honest, right?
Yeah.
So like, you
Like
know,
Smoke Machine?
no. Hey, so y'all feel me. So I'm just being for real. So like, you know what I mean? Just to kind of go out there, like I'm an air sign, right? And so like sometimes they say like smoking is like a soothing mechanism, and a lot of like quote unquote like thinkers, smoking is like a habit. You feel me? So
Of course.
Smoking, and I need the studio to be pretty much blacked out. Like I don't care where I'm at, if I'm at the homie's house, if I'm at Make Believe anywhere, I need it to be like blacked out, because it almost feels like for me, like once you cut off like one of them senses, like now my ears is more open. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I'm less distracted by the light. And at the same time, I feel like I'm creating the light within that darkness. So like those are my main things. That gotta be dark, and I gotta be able to meditate. You feel me? So
Interesting. That's really interesting, because when I listen to your music, I could tell that you always seem to go into this like other dimension with your sound. Your sound is very unique in that way. So I learned something new today. I do have. I want to jump into another topic, and that's you're in your studios. You're creating this. Most of the time, I'm assuming you're solo, exploring your sound and getting it dialed in. But I really want to start talking about implementing these sounds with other artists, in collaboration with artists. And especially two of you, or when I met the both of you, you were more vocal aligned artists. I always thought of you vocalists first before I knew that you produced records. And then Tek yourself, you go on to produce, and you've been so versatile in the types of vocalists that you work with and work for. So I'm really curious to understand when you are creating, and how do you approach production in the stance of the idea with a vocalist or collaborating with another, even studio musician, a guitarist or whatever it may be? Do you sometimes feel like when you begin your creation process that there's going to be a vocalist on this, or do I need a live band on this, or and how does that process come to fruition and the realization of it when you're in the studio working?
I think just because as a producer, you may be working on something, just music in general. You kind of let like I said, the flow, you let it flow. And you may be working on some music for like a score for a movie, be ambiance music, or just using that for an example. We could be working on some instrumental stuff, so everything doesn't have to have vocals. But if my approach with working with a particular artist, it always starts from a fan standpoint. So if you have to be a fan and really knowledgeable of the music in general, have a broad perspective of music. So a lot of times people ask me, like, what do I listen to when I'm riding around in the car? It don't necessarily be hip-hop all the time. It might be anything, country music, anything that it could be jazz, anything, something that it may be something opposite of what I'm working on that inspires me. So like when I go into working with an artist, a lot of times they come into my world, and sometimes I try to mimic what I would think they would want on a particular project. They may play me some music, so I try to try to fit in. So just as a producer, I just think it's important to be open and just openly creative because they're coming to you for your technical ability.
Of course.
So to say, you know what I mean?
Has there been an instance where you were not familiar with an artist or not a fan of an artist and had them come into the studio and you still make something that will end up getting released or something that you actually love?
Yeah, most definitely. And I would be nervous sometimes, you know,
Yeah.
just to see what they like. Kind of scared about like what they might think of my beats. It's like being an artist, we're still sensitive whether you know it or not. You know, we really care about what you think of the music. So
Yeah.
when we're put on the spot, like, and people coming to us for that particular sound, I kind of hate when artists ask me for a particular sound. I love when artists say, how you could break the mold with me is to say, hey, man, Tech, just do what you do.
Yeah,
But
okay.
if you ask me to say, like, I want a beat like you did for Kweli, or I want that one particular, I might not, you know, now I'm working too hard. And now it becomes work opposed to just making music and being creative.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think, broke the ice with working with artists like that situation. The way I've broken the ice is, the way the ice has been broken is with them and with their approach. And once they allow me to be creative, and they show me their creative process and it's the same as mine, or even better, because some artists will bring it out of you. And us producers, we're nothing without the artists. So a lot of the beats you may hear of mine have been perfected through the lyrics that were laid on the track. So some beats weren't even 100% done until I heard the vocals, so to say.
Heard.
So, you know, and then, like I said, if I'm working on or developing like an artist of my own, I'm totally comfortable. Like now I'm going crazy, you know what I'm saying?
Because it's like they're in your world at that
Yeah,
point.
they're in my
like they're
world.
full, like you're
Right,
commanding
and
that.
they're
right.
depending on me for the advice, and I'm
Yeah.
feeding off of them. So what they give me back is what they get out of me.
Heard.
Yeah.
Heard. LP and Yates, I'm really curious about your process because you two you write a lot of raps and you also produce tracks. So when you're making tracks, are you the first person you think you're going to be on these tracks, or do you ever feel like, yo, this beat is for Kethro? If Kethro started rapping, or something like that.
So I've been, like I said, for the last 20 years, I've been making beats. I ain't never rapped on my own production.
Really?
Yeah, I almost
What,
refused to.
So why is that? Why is that?
I don't know. It's weird, homie. Cause like when I see other artists, I view other artists as like singular instruments, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So with my understanding of what they might bring lyrically, but also like understanding their voice and their vibe, you feel me?
Yeah.
And so like when I like to tap in with an artist, I like to do everything very custom fit. You know what I'm saying? I don't just like make beats every day, but once an artist says, okay, I'm ready for this and this, we sit down, we create schemes, we create plots. And a lot of times what I've been doing now is I just have artists send me raw vocals. And like he was saying, I almost do it like a score. So once I'm hearing what you spitting, you got your BPM right, I'm like, okay, this made me feel like this. Okay, let me find this chord on the piano. Okay, what comes next, this and this. So I really like doing it custom fit. And I'm not to like the big level like Brother Hi-Tek yet, so I like to like people I make music with. I ain't there with the business where I'm like, you feel me? So a lot of the local people, I actually like to spend time with you, break bread, meet some of your family, meet some of your friends, and see how we vibe on like a personal, spiritual level.
Yeah.
And then from there, I feel like that also channels into the music. You know what I'm saying? So I want everything to be very personal, and I feel like that emotion is what I'm able to capture and bring forth for another artist.
To add to what you were saying, that's how I developed my skills, really, like working with local artists. Like when I first started, I would run a studio, local studio. I would charge $25 an hour or so, but everybody that came through there, I would help them make the beats. And, you know, not everybody, but, you know, a lot of artists, they give me the samples to sample for them, and they need help programming the drums. But I developed my skills working with all of those different artists. So when I kind of, so to say, got on a professional level, all of that work helped me get to where I am now. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that whole time and all of that practice, that's what develops everything you're going to be when you do get on my level, so to say. You know what I mean? But yeah, that was the fun days.
Yeah. And Marcey, yeah, I'm really curious about your pattern because you're kind of like a chameleon in the world where some albums is just you, and then other albums it's you and another collaborator, Zoe, or then it's you and 50 other cats on a record.
Yeah,
But it's always like you're the one kind of directing the whole flow. So
yeah, I'm like a hybrid, man.
how do you mentally switch between those lanes, or when you approach a project, are you focused on like this one is for me, or this one is for everybody else? Or
Yeah,
vice versa?
when it's for me, I make sure to like make that time is for me. But you know, truthfully, like when I got into this, being a producer and MC was like that was it. It wasn't like one or the other. It was both, right? Like I've heard Hi-Tek rap on tracks, right? I've always been like attracted to like the producer MCs, like the Pete Rocks and the Kanye's and the cats who could, you know, Q-Tips, the cats who can make the beats and rap too.
Yeah.
I just adored that so much. So for me, like when I'm cooking, like I kind of feel like, yeah, man, I might stash the hottest shit for myself. You know what I'm saying? Like for real, you know. But then it could be so hot, and I'm just like, that's, you know, I'm not gonna be able to do this one justice though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Also, like tracks that come to mind, like Connie's out here, right? And it's a cat I've reached out to for like mini projects, right? And I could be cooking, and be like, yo, this guy gonna go good on this. Same thing with Static, or
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, it's gonna go good for them, right? So, you know, you're gonna surrender that for just for the better sake of hip hop. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like I said before, with being a producer MC, like it's me first, but then it's like you gotta share this because you're gonna cook so many beats, you can't rap on all of them. Like it's impossible. You know what I'm saying? Like you talking about thousands of just beats, you know what I'm saying? Like that end
Yeah.
up just sitting there for like years though if you don't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like pass them out, you know, share them though. So normally when I'm working
Yeah.
with an artist though, like I already understand the assignment. If someone come to me and they want production, like they like what I'm doing though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like Tech saying, if you come to me and you want like something that Future making, like you might came to the wrong dude. But if I know that's what you want, give me a second, I can still cook it for you. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
heard.
saying? Like give me a second.
Well, that brings me into my next question is more about long distance collaboration, because nowadays with digital age kind of coming in, we're seeing a lot more producer vocal, even we're just speaking on producer vocal relationships is done through DMs, through Instagram, through things like that. So where do you three seem like you're very localized in your collaboration, and that's where your best work comes out of. But do you feel like sometimes you're forced into a position to where, enabled to continue your work or continue your legacies, that you have to resort to finding artists from outside of your communities or outside your realms? Tech, I wonder if like, do your DMs flood with rappers all the time saying, yo, let's work. Would you prefer them to come to Cincinnati, or do you feel like a remote relationship as far as getting work done is just as important nowadays?
I don't feel, you know, I feel like I've been fortunate enough to have somebody like, say, like when I first started, started working with Quali, right? To work with an artist that actually know how to write, and because it was before I could even consider myself a producer, I was a beat maker. But those writers, you know, they would take beats that I thought weren't, you know, professional enough, or, you know, weren't all the way completed, but the way they wrote to the beat, it helped bring it to life, and it helped me see, you know, or hear something that I didn't hear in the track before. But then, like, you know, bring it to the future now that I've accomplished, you know, my goal of being called a producer. I've been in, a lot of my songs that you hear today, I wasn't in the studio with them recording. Then I also have people calling me for, you know, for beats. I would actually have to do my research and see what kind of work they're putting in, you know, and try to get familiar with their style, because we are in a business and this is how I eat, you know. So sometimes it's about selling a beat, making money, you know what I mean? It's that, but I don't do it just for the money. It has to have some sort of, it has a lot of elements of integrity because, you know, your name is everything, so you can't just sell beats to anybody because they'll promote your name bigger than their own. It look like I'm the artist.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Look, they got to do the beats justice too, though. You know, I'll be feeling like that. I don't want to just pass the beat. And I'm just like that. Like I'm kind of selfish with it. Like if you not gonna do it justice, man. Like I may be slow to get you that track, get you that beat.
Yeah, I look at I would say like each track, I would say it's like I'm gonna equate it to me like as a father is like each track is like a daughter, and I gotta give her to like the right suitor. You know what I'm saying? So like
Interesting.
I don't feel comfortable. Like I've had situations where like business is going awry because like you said, somebody wanted to use my beat, but really without my permission, but then like use my name on it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, we can't do that. That make me look bad. I got a whole brand. Like when people see me, it's quality,
Yeah,
and you ain't representing that. You know what I mean?
facts. That is one last question on the relationship, and then we're going to get to the final section. Can you explain each of you kind of, because I producer and beat maker are two different things, and I wonder if you can kind of define that to the audience. Maybe we should have started with that question, but just can you each define in very quick terms like what the difference between being a producer and being a beat maker is?
So it's levels to it, right? So the beat maker is just strictly like the sonics of it, right? But then like the producer, almost within the studio takes on like I could say like a manager position. You feel me? And so like
Yeah.
when me and Ty Lin we're working on You Don't Know the Half, I'm really like there every step of the way, helping create the schematics, helping create the plot, helping create the themes, helping like do everything, putting money down 50-50, making sure we got deadlines and dates. But the producer is like, I feel like producer is more of a vision. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Once you have the vision, that's when the producer, the beat maker, you just. But that's for me.
Do either of you two want to add on to that?
Yeah, like you said, a producer can be, well, a producer doesn't have to necessarily be the programmer. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't have to spend blood, sweat, and tears programming. He can have the overall vision. He can see the project from beginning to end before it even get finished, so to say. So, for instance, like somebody like Quincy Jones who can come into a studio, put some musicians together, and take a producer or a beat maker at the time, Rod Tipperton,
Yeah.
who technically is the one who produced Thriller
Right.
for Michael Jackson, but Quincy Jones got the credit because he produced the whole vision
Right.
of it. You know what I mean? But the technical aspects came from Rod Tipperton, which you know the producer is the one that sees everything. You know.
Heard.
Yeah, and you know we credit producers that are beat makers because I may make a beat at home or my studio, and I may have the hook on it and the vibe, everything. All you have to do is place your lyrics in between. So you still consider a producer in that
Yeah.
aspect as well.
These are all great answers. And I know we all sometimes have these, we see the Twitter debates and all the debates on how certain artists, the way they work, the Kanye Wests of the world flying a bunch of people out in a town and making them produce stuff, and then he puts his name on it. Now you understand the difference between the programmer, the beat maker, the musician, and the producer. These are all, I could talk to these cats forever. When we were backstage, it was another hour conversation going on back there that y'all never gonna hear. We got real deep. But I do want to get to my last section because we are strapped for time. But I do want, this is, I feel like an integral, really important part of what we all do here on this stage and in some of you in the audience. And I want to talk about the business. And the business is the way we see how we make or break where we're at, where we're navigating, and where we're trying to intend to go. So I want to start with something that we all on this stage have struggled with at times in our careers, and that is navigating the sampling maze.
Say that again.
Navigating the sampling maze. Samples.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you who don't know, in hip-hop, sampling has been a crucial and very important part of this whole culture, this whole movement. It'll never stop. It'll never slow down. But I am curious to know, sampling clearances is a very complex world and a complex field. And I'm just curious on how you three approach putting out records. Like Tech, I noticed even just this year, you've just been dropping all the tapes, the MP60 tapes, all this stuff. And my question was, well, how is he clearing all these samples? So I'm curious, but you don't have to speak on that particular. We don't have to answer that. We don't got to answer that, okay? There's no samples on none of that stuff. But I'm just curious, when you're working with an artist, let's say, when you're at Aftermath or Raucous or any of these places, or with G-Unit, and you're making these records, and you have these beautiful samples on them, how does the process on that level, how does that go about when you've got it done?
I'm gonna keep it 100% real, and it's, you got levels of success, So in today's industry, whether you be underground, up and coming, or established artists, technically you're supposed to clear any sample you put out. You're selling somebody else's product, basically. You took something from somebody else's ownership and you turned it into your own, and you sold it, right? So they deserve something, right?
Of course.
But in all aspects, at the end of the day, nobody's, trying to clear everything. So with that being said, I haven't cleared everything I put out. So, but, when it comes to major records, like songs I've produced for 50 Cent or Snoop or, any of the major guys, that's one of the first things the major labels do. They go for clearances. They have to clear these samples. But a lot of the underground stuff, if you're not selling over a certain amount of records, a lot of times we don't clear that stuff.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there, in your opinion, a threshold that should be met, or just a kind of unwritten threshold of
I
saying?
think so, because you're basically testing the water. You're just like, all right, if they come for me, then we'll pay for it after that.
Yeah.
Because this depends on the level of success you're looking for. The most importantly, we're just trying to get people to art, get the fans to art. You know? And the thing is, you have to know. You just hope. Actually, you want the record to blow up. You want it to be successful. But at the same time, if you know it's something underground, a lot of times guys don't clear those samples. Yeah. Because it's just, and they'll take a chance on just putting stuff out because it's not going to sell that many records. But, there's a difference between underground and major records. You know what I mean? So always everything that was put out on a major level was cleared. But I've been in situations where, for instance, one record in particular, I produced a record called Come Down for Anderson .Paak. And we went for sample clearance on one of the samples, and everything was cleared on that, but not once did I think of the drum sample that I used on the track. I didn't think I had to clear that. Yeah. And been sampling drums my whole career, taking hi-hats and kicks and snares, chopping them up, making them my own pattern or whatever. And not once did I think I had to clear that. I've been sampling drums, but the record took off. I mean, if you been paying attention, it's been licensed on so many commercials, NFL Countdown and Google, Sony. I mean, the record went crazy on the licensing level. And sure enough, the people who own the record with the drums came after me and was like, and it's such a minimalist use. Yeah. And you would never think you could be sued for that, but they came for me, and we had to do it the hard way, which, at the end of the day, once it's out and it's doing well, the ball is in their court. Yeah. So we was able to work it out, but you just don't want to take that chance dealing with samples. If you can, I mean, this is just my expert opinion, if you can get it cleared, especially because you never know if that record's going to do well. You look better paying for that clearance process ahead of time, because you just never know if it's going to blow up, But if it's like some instrumental stuff and you just putting it out, whatever, that's kind of in fun, and you never know. You never know what's going to happen with the record. But I definitely didn't think somebody would come for some hi-hats.
Yeah.
They
You
like,
know,
no, those are my
yeah,
hi-hats right there.
yeah, back
Like,
back in
damn,
back in my
crazy.
youth, I started a record label, and our very first record that we put out had a Beatles sample on it, and we were just like, we all knew,
Never
like,
touched the Beatles.
yeah, but that was like the unwritten rule. You don't touch the Beatles, but the artist we were working with, it was the hit song on the record. It was the come down of the record. Not on that level, but to us, we just knew it was gonna resonate. So we're like, all right, let's clear it. Actually, no. So, yeah. So, anyways, we went to an agency. This is all underground. We went to an agency, Harry A. Fox, and they said, well, how many copies are you making? We're like 500. They're like, okay, cool. We'll charge you this amount of money, which is not a crazy amount. But they're like, if you go one over, we want this amount of money. And it was like 5 times the amount. And we're like, per X amount of records. And that's when we kind of knew. And that's kind of what brings me to my next question. Moving forward, do all 3 of you fear these things moving forward? Like when you sample a record for a beat and it comes out and it's on a record, do you fear that might come up, or do you just say, fuck it, I'll apologize later?
My stance is catch me if you can.
Okay.
And if you chasing me, that means I did something right.
So when you're
I'm with him on that.
You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? So like just where we at, right? So like how music has become so expansive and immersive, right?
Yeah.
Distro kid, you ain't getting flagged for it unless you doing something real major. You feel me? But
Right, like
where
Beatles.
we at in life, like sampling is like the essence of hip hop. So I feel like how dare you try to take that away? And then on the flip side, it's like, nigga, who inspired you? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you're gonna like not allow me to be inspired by you. So I feel like one day if somebody samples my song, as long as you ain't trying to be on no NFL commercial, pay me. You feel me?
Right.
But if it's some little underground local dude and he done sampled something I did from 15 years ago, I love it. You know what I'm saying? Because that means
Word.
I meant something to you.
Yeah.
That means I inspired you. And so like I'm with it. So but again, like you said, when we get to the big leagues, you gotta play a little safer. But right now we still in the underground with it. You feel me?
Yeah.
No, I think Tech said it best. Like, just depend on the levels. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
you want that smoke. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want the record to blow, and then you want them to come at you. Then you figure it out. Then, you know what I mean? So, like, I definitely feel that. Yeah, I mean, like,
respect.
your shit popping at that point, right? You know,
Yeah.
you figure it out and handle it. But like when you're doing situations with business though, they're like, yeah, make sure you're using, and this is the thing too, right? You can sample, but then you have like license samples as well too, right? Where you don't have to clear them, right? And then you feel what I'm saying? So you can, yeah, you don't like this shit, right? Right, exactly. So like,
It just takes some of the fun out of it. 'Cause
Yeah.
part of the fun, the adventure
Right.
is like finding your own.
It
sound.
does. I
Yeah.
don't like that stuff, man. But I tell you what, when we did the project with Cider Creek, like that's what they was on. It was like, yo, we're not clearing your sample, so like you better figure it out. So straight up.
Dang.
Like,
Let me.
They said we're
I
not-
wanted
we're
to
not
add
doing
something
all
to
that.
it.
The legendary Saddle Creek budget.
Yeah, you got like. The only thing is like when you're being a professional producer and labels are coming to you to produce for somebody's, or for their artists or whatever, you got to be honest with the samples though, you know, because it's a little traumatizing if you. So there's a clause in most of the producer agreements called the indemnity clause, which holds you accountable if you don't reveal whether it's a sample in the track or not. So they have you sign this clause to say if there's a sample in this track and we get sued or whatever, the lawsuit, you have to deal with that
Yeah.
personally. So I had to deal with that with the Anderson .Paak record myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, the good part about it, there was no publishing involved
Yeah.
because like you can't, there's no publishing in a percussion sound because there's no melody. So that was like, that would have been a whole nother hurdle because you got to think we got all these licenses and there was publishing being paid
Yeah.
through syncs and stuff. So the good part is we were able to just pay for the master usage because I used something tangible.
Where'd you chop them drums from? Oh, for real? Where'd you chop them from? Where they was like, yo, them my joints.
No, it's a sample called, what is it, Soul and Sunshine by a group called Harvey and the Phenomenals.
Yeah,
Crazy. Kanye,
okay.
You never heard it? You heard it? Huh?
Nobody, dude. That's about
Yeah.
$1,000.
I
was waiting
got
to
about
cut.
$1,000
waiting to
bucks
cut. Like, yeah.
to his name, right?
Everybody cash in.
Yeah.
But it's
Well, I have one more question in the business, and then I have 2 more questions left, y'all, and then we can open it up to the floor. But this is my last question of the business, and this is actually a question that a youth came up to me asking about my opinion of, and it was a really hard one to answer, but I'm curious about your opinion on it. And it comes towards being a producer. You make a track with an artist. How do you split it up? And how do you go about those negotiations? Is that something that depends on the situation with the artist that you're working with? Or in terms, is it something that you can dictate? How do you approach those conversations? And when is it an appropriate time to have those conversations within the creative process with said collaborator?
From the get-go.
From the very beginning.
from
so,
the get-go.
so they
Sure,
walk in the
yes.
dark, smoky basement, and you're like, before we begin, 50-50.
Yeah, yeah. So like again, still understanding that like for the moment being, we still in like the minor leagues, but the minor leagues are still ran like the major leagues as far as like getting your ducats, right?
Right.
So depending on the situation I have with the artist, depending if they paying me for the front end or the back end, you know what I'm saying? So we're always gonna ask for like a percentage of my work. You know what I'm saying? Especially if I'm giving somebody like a beat on GP and this is like for free, but I done put in 24 hours into it.
Yeah.
Oh man, I need 40-50.
Okay.
Even split. You know what I'm saying? Now if
Yeah.
you actually are paying for the beat, then we can talk about the publishing 10% here, maybe 5%, you know what I'm saying? But like it literally depends on the business deal, but those type of things have to be up front, you know what I'm saying? Because you start talking about money on the back end,
Yeah.
that's when stuff starts getting fun.
So you're more malleable to the deal then, but you want to make sure you're straightforward, like straight off the cut.
Yes, sir.
You wanna
Yes,
make
sir.
What about you two? How do you two approach that?
by default, but industry standards is the producer is entitled to 50% of the track. So automatically the producer gets 50%. Publishing and writers. Now, if a producer implements or incorporates a sample in the track, whatever that sample or whoever owns the publishing for that sample or master, it really could come solely from the producer's half from that 50%. But if the beat is hot and it's you can have a war over this beat. Everybody wants it, or amongst your circle. You know? And he's like, it's dope. Everybody wants. You have negotiating power at that point with the artist. Basically, you can ask the artist, say, hey, whatever comes out of this sample, if it's going to cost us this amount, could you split the sample cost with me? That way you can, because like when I first got in the game, it was like my first couple of placements, and we would go for sample clearances. The artist would be based on the amount of usage that I used of the sample. So if I just use like 4 bars or whatever, they may come back and say, hey, give us 12.5%, 30%, 20%. But as time went on, once these companies and these publishing rights holders seen that the hip hop is making all this money off of samples, they started just taking 50%. And it was that 50% is the producer's total publishing rights of that song. So being said, if we have a sample and you really like this beat, if you have that much power, or if the beat is that dope, or if they really want it, you can ask the artist, can you split these sample costs with me?
Interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of a hard approach too, because a lot of them, especially when you're dealing with major rappers that are already bigger, and they actually, a lot of those rappers think they're doing you more of a favor than you're doing them, even though the beat is helping them make that hit record.
Yeah.
But it's hard to get, a lot of times hard to get them to split sample costs with you, but that's like, trust me, they're gonna bow down if they really like that beat, trust me, because they need the producer, they need that beat, and it's just best that you, like you said, it's best that you talk about it up front. right from the get go, in the dark, smoky room.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Dark smoky room. Now,
Tell them right off top.
I do want to navigate. I'm actually going to add another question. Sorry, but we'll make it quick. Going back to the creative process, exiting the business, but we're in the back room and we are talking about the future, and this can be a question that can go way out of control, and I'll try to hone it in for time's sake. But I'm curious about your opinions on how particularly hip-hop production is going to evolve and change in the future with the current technological advances that we are seeing forthcoming into our way. That could be in the realm of machine innovation, AI, machine learning, all that stuff. I don't want to be too broad, and let's not say doom and gloom here, but I am curious about your opinions on these tools, and if you're curious about using these tools in your line of production, and if you see them being important into your line of production moving forward.
Bro, I feel like, all right, so you know how you go to the gas station, or not the gas station, but the grocery store, and then they have the self-checkout, right? So it's kind of like the self-checkout a little bit too, right? Where you can like bypass like the physical, right? Certain people, like you can almost bypass the engineer now, you can almost bypass a the beat maker, right? And just get to it, you know what I mean? So I think like the future is like not like resenting it or try to work against it, but figuring out how it can work with you, especially like cats like that come from like, analog and then digital, and then you get the AI. It's kind of like, man, this might fuck up our business, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Take away from me or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And that's how I look at it. I feel like, just got to kind of adapt and see how it can work with you, but...
So are you willing to try it? Are you willing to try these tools that are coming up within the production realm?
For sure. I don't want to go against the current. You know what I'm saying? Like again, figure out how it can work for you. If it worked for you, good. If it doesn't, then maybe you don't need to use it. But one thing for sure that is here, right?
Right.
And it's doing amazing things. But what can it do for you? That's amazing. You know what I'm saying? How can it help your workflow?
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, because as of right now, I only really see like the most innovation I'm seeing is people creating like. They're having SpongeBob do a 21 Savage song, which honestly is like really, really tough. I actually love it. But I haven't seen any like real actual practical uses with true, true honest recordings from humans. So
Steal your identity with it. That's what I heard they can do now.
Put your voice on
in
something
a sense.
too. That's crazy.
But Tech, do you see yourself using these tools in the future? Is it something that interests you?
Yeah, I mean, being that my name is Hi-Tek,
Yeah.
Like
You almost have to live up to the name, right?
I was Hi-Tek before I was, before the 90s,
Yeah. Heard.
So like just trying to stay current with technology, it's a good thing and a bad thing,
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing because you have other creative ways, you have other creative tools to use. I actually thought of the AI voice. Like I was in the studio one time, I said, what if I could, before this whole thing with the AI voice, I was thinking that. I was like, man, what if I could rap my verse, but then have a plug-in that changes to Biggie's voice?
Right, yeah.
I just had thought of that before it became a thing, and here it is. It happened. And now, you don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing because it's a misuse of technology, because now you get tracks out there. I think I heard a whole Kendrick track or a whole Tupac featuring Biggie or something like that. But the Biggie voice, it sounds just like it. And it's just scary, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think Eminem had one too. But, like I said, it's a good and a bad thing. And keeping up on technology can be fun, and it can be scary at the same time.
Of course.
Yeah, I think,
Paul, you got to weigh in on it?
I think I'm a little I want to stay kind of archaic with it to a degree because I feel like the cultivation of the technology is also going to be like a culling game, you feel me, where you're really going to have to separate those who are able and those who aren't, you know what I'm saying? So like we were saying back there, I feel like there's a certain element that science will never be able to really pinpoint what the human spirit is. but what the human spirit creates is like very visibly manifest in everything. That's how we're all here, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like that spiritual connection, I don't believe in. You know what I'm saying? We'll see. You know what I mean? Hopefully I don't want to see. It'll probably be past us. But I feel like that spiritual connection that really comes from like the soul, from the actual experience, from hardships, from joy, from love, just the whole human experience, the AI will never be able to truly capture that essence. So they can give us the little club song and something real superficial. But like I said back there, I don't think AI could create a Dear Mama. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So.
Interesting. Well, we'll see what happens, you know? Like, right now I'm just waiting for more SpongeBob tunes, so we'll see where that goes. New album soon with the hamburger hand and shit. Brings me my very last question, and this is a question where I wanted to talk about specifics on certain records, but I'm really curious to hear all three of yours opinion about a particular time where you made a record and that record ended up doing something for your career that changed the way you approach production or changed the way that you moved forward with production. I'm kind of curious to know if it was a studio session or if an album that already came out or maybe a meeting that you had with somebody, if you guys can talk about a particular story or a particular occurrence in your life that really just like set the path for where you're at today.
Let me see, man. It's a record I produced called The Blast for Talib Kweli and myself. And I remember that beat in particular, the foundation of the beat was just, you know, it was the sample and it had the hi-hats and the drums. I had the idea. It was actually the oldest beat of the album, like something I had worked on maybe 2 or 3 years before. And everything else was a little fresher. But that beat in particular, I remember being out in LA and we needed a track and we came up with the Kweli idea because there's a sample in there that says body that sounds like it's saying Kweli.
Yeah.
Which that idea came from our manager at the time, and I was like, that's it, you know, and I capitalized off of that idea. But something about the beat, something was missing. So I had you know, I took out the hi-hats, and I learned this from being in the studio with Jay Dilla and Amir from The Roots. And I was blessed enough to be able to be around these guys during the process of making my album. So I just learned a lot. So that thing that I learned was implementing or incorporating live instrumentation over top of samples. So what I did was took out the hi-hats and add an instrument, the baraka.
Yeah,
And,
that was a baraka, huh?
Yeah, and that was like
Oh, nice.
one of my, like when the light came on as far as how the track expanded from that point and adding the claps and taking a sample and expanding on it opposed to it being like some like regular monotonous track. So that was like one of those times where the light really came on and it really helped me with the rest of my production because now I'm feeling like I'm producing. I'm actually not just sampling, I'm using live instrumentation and sort of creating my own samples, but the way I'm mixing it, it's like I'm blending it into the samples. I'm not just using live instrumentation and it's just like all over the place. It has to be mixed a certain way and has to blend in to the foundation of the track. So that really helped me expand the rest of every track after that. I was just like using live instrumentation and tucking it in or resampling. I may record it and resample it into the drum machine, which dumbs down the bit rates, you know.
Kind of creates a vibe, though.
Yeah. Help create the vibe. So that was really one of them times, and the record it took off, man. It was like one of my biggest records.
Yeah, The Blast is an amazing tune.
Thank you.
I actually
Appreciate
got into, I remember when I was younger, I used to get in arguments over what the cats were actually saying on the record. Because we were like, yo, that's a sample. Like, no, they're saying quality.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you answered
that.
that.
Actually says body.
A body, yeah.
Yeah, but we're saying
we never
quality
knew what
on
they were
top of it.
saying, but we were always kind of arguing about
Natty, and we said quality.
what was
so-
being said. I'm going to make a phone call and I can get my $10. I'm curious about you two. I mean, you're...
Look, man, I study Hi-Tek, right? And for me, like, studying Hi-Tek, studying like P-Rock, Dilla, Madlib, like, right? And wanting to get that right snare, whether it was like crispy, fat, thick, right? Want to have that swing, want to have that, like. So for me, it's like, it was like this, right? Me like working, trying to cultivate to try to get the sound and make it your own, right? And then when you like introduce it to people, right? And they can like receive it, you know what I'm saying? And like, yo, it's dope. For me, it was like, all right, cool, right? And that's what you need to like feel like, all right, man, I could go forward, right? It's like just having your little box and you working on this shit. And then you showing it to somebody first off, right? Because the first thing is like, all right, you gotta have a friend's test or the homies test, right? You know what I'm saying? Or family test first. And then the ones that keep it real with you, like, you can do this shit, you can't, you know what I mean? But for me, it was having my favorite, you know what I'm saying, producers that I studied, you know what I mean? So when I came out and was letting people hear what I was doing, you know, it passed the ear test, you know what I'm saying? And so for me, it was validation, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I say. So props to Hi-Tek right here for sure. Like,
Yeah.
like bro, for real.
Do you
So when
still do you still practice this till day? Like if you, like with the Saddle Creek project, did you? I mean, you didn't call me for validation.
Nah, look,
I'm an
like,
engineer.
You know, you get your confidence. You just like, yeah, this is that, right? You know what I'm saying? And no, I didn't hit you on the side. It was a lot of people I didn't hit for the Saddle Creek project.
I know.
I'm
just joking.
It was in such a short. I did hit you up though, bro. I got consultation about business though. You
Oh yeah, we did. We did talk
lawyer,
about it.
right?
Never mind. That was a lie.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so I
y'all.
use it for another level.
I didn't hear
you
no
know?
records
Yeah,
though.
right.
I just saw
yeah.
paper. LP, I'm curious about you. You know, and what was the moment? You know, you came to light where you're like, this is the direction moving forward. I'm curious about even like maybe it was Thailand. You know, when I listen to your discography, I hear so many shades of your music. So when was the defining moment to get to where you're at now?
So like I said, I've been doing this since I was 12. But I think the pandemic 2020 was when I really like got in my bag, right? So before like they started furloughing everybody, I was working at this job and these cats was like, they probably like 7, 8 years younger than me. So like the music gap is huge. You know what I'm saying? Because I really don't be up to speed with what's going on with the culture. Like I am, but I ain't. And so they showed me Key Glock and Young Dolph. And I said, what?
Yeah.
I said, oh, this is where the Sonics is at. This is where the tempo, the culture is at right now. And so after like, you know what I'm saying, getting laid off for the job and getting paid buku bucks too, I didn't even need to go back. So I'm just sitting alone. The streets is silent. Nobody got toilet paper, but I got my computer. You feel me?
Yeah.
And so,
Heard.
And so with that, like 2020 was really where I was able to tap in and hone because I wasn't worried about a job. I wasn't worried about like shuffling, hustling, bustling, moving around. I had like true time and solitude to like have peace and hone my craft. So 2020, that's when it was up from there.
Heard. Yo, I gotta say, man, the music you've been putting out lately, I feel like you've reached, you're still climbing, but you've reached this pinnacle that is just undeniable, man. So I gotta give you your props.
Producer of the year.
Respect.
Yeah, man.
Producer of the year.
We're here with heavy hitters, but I went into the LP deep dive the other night, and I'm like, damn, this guy's cooking. It made me like, you know, fire up the machines. If you all can please give these three a round of applause, please. It's such an honor to just, I wrote 8 pages of questions. Like, I didn't even get around to 90% of them. But I do want to open up the floor. I think we can take, like, 3 questions. Is that okay? 2 or 3? 4 questions. So we'll pass the mic around and then take these questions.
Give it up for Connie Franco, ladies and gentlemen. Connie Franco. Connie Franco.
Yo, what's poppin'? What an honor to hear all y'all talk. Thank you, OPA. I'm a huge fan of all y'all. Worked with some of y'all really closely. We played Come Down before our show in Long Beach on tour and shit. So, but it's an honor to be here. I think of 4 women And I just want to know, like, what was the idea between putting it as like the last song or a secret song?
Oh, 4 women, you said?
Yeah, and if
Okay,
none
so
of y'all
4
know the song by Nina Simone that Talib Kweli
Yeah,
and
it's like a
this.
hidden track on me and Talib's first album. It's like comes on like after the last song or whatever outro. It comes on like 20 seconds later. That was like a thing to do back then. But the idea came from Kweli. He gave me the idea. He really loves the song "For Women" by Nina Simone, and he wanted me to just make my version of it. And I just kind of just did my thing on it, you know. And really, that was all Talib. He deserved co-production on that track because I did my thing, but it was his vision, so to say. Yeah. Even all the female vocals, he produced all the female vocals on this, like 5 different females, and his 4 different females, and he kind of wrote that track out, and you know his idea to make it a hidden track and everything. Yeah.
What about the joint "On My Way"?
Or the "On My Way."
'Cause it's like 30 seconds, and you know
Yeah.
how I kept repeating that. You know what I'm saying? Like
That's what it's for.
yeah,
It's supposed to. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll just repeat that shit
Like,
out of that.
that "On My Way" is like it was just an instrumental. I was working on the beat, and my brother came in the studio, and he just started singing that hook. So that's like my brother singing. Yeah. Well, he sung it, and then I re-sung it. So it's me singing the "I'm on my way to see you, girl," and then we had the female vocalist come in and sing. So, but we made it an interlude for what reason I don't know. But you know, we just vibing, teasing them. Yeah.
All right, we have our next question.
What's up, gentlemen? Hey, so we were talking about AI stuff, and it was all the like fun and games and bells and whistles. But there's been one that I've been really prevalently using lately, which is the AI Master, right? This AI Master, there's tons of them. They're everywhere. They've been changing the game for like all the young cats, and it really just takes it. Like it took me like 4 years to find like this real boom in sound, or like in the bass end, right? And then all of a sudden, every single track is perfect, and I don't even have to go through that mastering service. I don't have to look it up, or I don't have to wire it through anything. It's really changing the game. I didn't know if y'all had any thoughts on that, or thoughts on this like AI mastering, because like everybody, if you use BandLab, right? BandLab's this awesome free thing. They've got these preset masters that you just plug it in through the end. It's a real streamlined process. How's that make y'all like?
Max, your tracks be coming out clean. I
Yeah,
told you
right?
that when I hear them though. So, like the AI thing again though, like he'll play me these tracks that he and he does the AI mastering, and it works. Like I have a trained ear, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna hate on it, you know what I'm saying? Like shit, man, you know. And I'm sorry, but the consumer's like, it's a different kind of ear you got, right? From a consumer than from like a producer or engineer. You're trained differently, you know what I'm saying? So we're going to critique something probably the most like when we hear it versus like you guys. You probably won't be able to tell the difference between, you know, Wave MP3 or, you know, different file that's probably lost, you know what I'm saying, stuff. And, you know what I'm saying? Like y'all probably won't catch that, you know what I mean? So, and, you know, when you're doing that, like, I don't know the process. I don't know if someone's on the other end doing it or if it's just like, generated. I don't know, you know what I mean? But it comes out sounding pretty good though.
Yeah, I think that's what it's made for it to be more useful and convenient. Cool, but a lot of its software is internet based as well. So if your Wi-Fi go out, studio is out. I hate that part. And it's almost like, you know, how many numbers do you remember in your cell phone by heart? Because we're so used to like just putting it in our phone, so we stop using our memory. It's almost the same with AI. We get so dependent on it. It could be useful or it could be very harmful, you know.
Yeah, and for me, bro, I just and again, it's different levels of things, right? So
I know you like that real crispy, like real instrument sound. I know you do for sure.
For sure, but like so like I think, like I was saying earlier, just for like how I make my beats is like. For the people who like getting fresh out here, it ain't nothing like having like a tailor-made suit though. Like my size is like a large at Target if I'm buying a T-shirt, But if I'm about to get fresh, we getting tailor fitted, and that's like only for me. You feel me?
Yeah.
So like that's like my take on it. So again, like you want to do the AI because like to cut costs and like where we're at as artists, I think that's a cool thing. But I think once you get to a certain level where you don't have to, I think it would benefit your sound more, where it'll be very specific.
So y'all were talking about like the 50% for the producer's fee. As a producer myself, I would like to know like what percentages you think you would throw towards like a piano player, trumpeter, and like a violinist. Like like 10%, 15s.
So you got right. So when it comes to like live instrumentation, right? You got instruments for hire, and that's like a big thing. Now, if you want to break bread with an instrumentalist, that's like a specific agreement. But a lot of times, like what happens in these studios, you pay the people for the session, and then they're done with it. Everything else comes back to you. So like on my Return of the Pharaoh EP, I got like all these guitarists on there. That was out of love. I'm putting their name on there. I'm giving them 30%, breaking down everything evenly. You know what I'm saying? And for the future hopes of like when this hits, hey, collect your check one day, you feel me? But I also paid them up front, so I technically, legally didn't have to give them no splits.
Firstly, I'd like to thank you guys for coming out. Like, your advice is very helpful. I was curious, a lot of times when I'm making beats, like I find myself adding more sounds or more instruments, when in reality, everything that I need is in the beat and it just needs to be mixed.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, so how do you guys balance like mixing versus adding more sound to whatever you're making?
Like I said, keep it simple. You gotta think about the artist too, so you gotta leave them room to have their vocal on there. You know what I mean? You don't wanna clout the track. Sometimes if you're a producer and you gotta think with an MC mindset, right? You know what I mean? And you can easily like clout the track and you can't leave no room for the artist to know when they're supposed to come in for their verse or when the hook is coming in, or just letting them be able to breathe and letting them do their vocals, because the vocals is an instrument as well too. You know what I mean? So that's why I gotta say, cause a lot of times cats said, man, they bring a beat and it start off cool, then they start adding all this other stuff to it. I'd be like, man, strip that, right? And then you good right here. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I gotta say, for real, keep it simple.
Oh, yeah, I'll say something to add to that, but less is more sometimes. Leaving room, like you said, leaving room for the artist or vocalist or whatever, because you might want to just leave that space just because it's going to inspire you to put some additives there after the vocals. The vocals are nothing but like another instrument to the track. So you got to look at the vocals as if it's a saxophone, and you got to leave room for that. But yeah, he was right about like just leaving space and room for the artist, the vocals.
What's up, fellas? Shout out to Lite, Yates, Kethro, local legends here. Kind of a two-part question. We've been talking a lot of producer stuff. I wonder if Tech can touch on his early DJing days, kind of where he comes from, speaking for my other fellow DJs. And then the second part, I got the blast right here. I wonder if he can sign it for me when we get done.
It's dope.
So yeah, that's it. But yeah, if you can sign this, it'd be dope. But
I
yeah,
got
I'm curious about your DJ beginnings.
Say that again. I could really hear you.
Your DJ beginnings. Just kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, man, that's really technically how I really got my ear on music. It's like I'm going to say like 12 years old. Got my first set of turntables after begging my parents to, that I wanted a set of turntables. And when I got them, that's how I discovered a lot of samples and discovering. A lot through DJing. Like a lot of my beat making process started from DJing, because you learn tempo, you learn music just from listening to different genres of records, of music rather, and that's how it started. Age 12, man, started off DJing and slowly morphed into getting, like I said, that Casio SK5, and started to sample because what it was, my grandmother had she had like a set of records in this bin, and when I got my turntables, I didn't have no records, so she had this little record bin, and it was maybe about 40 records in there, and they wasn't all hip hop. So when I pick up a record like Weather Report, which is a jazz group, in particular, an album they got called Sweet Nighter. And Sweet Nighter, man, has so many samples and drum breaks, and it's just one of the most intricate records you could listen to. So if you ever get a chance, listen to Sweet Nighter by Weather Report. But during that process of DJing, man, I learned so much about samples and where they came from, and just finding records. So it actually led me into wanting to make beats, so to say.
All right, now I know we said 4, but people's hands keep popping up like popcorn. So this young lady right here, and then I saw the last, my man's over there by the door. We don't want to belabor this, but we will have like a very short, like informal with Hi-Tek and the panelists if y'all want to talk to them off the event, okay? I don't want to shut y'all out, but I just don't want to disappoint nobody. All right, so Nyrell, what's up, girl?
I would like to say this is definitely a great discussion. Shout out to Aaron, Kethro, Hi-Tek, Marcey, Lite. I really look up to you guys. I have 2 questions. It's real quick. My first one is that where do you guys see yourself in like 3 to 5 years from now? And then my second question is that where do you guys see creatives that are coming up right now, especially in the Omaha scene, because you guys are making this environment so cool and very national, and it's starting to be global, so yeah.
Well, shout out to you for sure.
Yes.
As one of those upcoming artists. And a mother too, you know what I'm saying? So you got a lot to juggle, so much respect. So I guess, one more time, can you break the question so I don't ramble too far? Which you want us to answer?
She asked, where do y'all see
3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years from now, yeah.
Shit, hopefully not clocking in nobody 9 to 5. Like I really
Hold
want.
on, I'm just playing.
I want to be able to fully support myself and my family off of like the skills that God gave me personally. And seeing like the next generation, I feel like J. Cole got that song Middle Child, so I got to come up within that era from the no technology to the technology, this and this. And even like where my age and like the cultural influence, like I'm right in the middle, so I ain't too old, I ain't too young. And like what I really want to see is like, I just want to see the heart of the art remain true. So like backstage you was talking, a lot of people just want to make music because they want to captivate a lifestyle. They just want to be cute and have money on TV. Like, I want to see where your heart is at because I started making music before I ever thought about making money with it, you know what I mean? And so like now that's my goal, but that's not the reason why I make music, you feel me? So that's what I want to see from the next generation, is just keep that hunger and like keep inspiring those behind you, you feel me?
I think that as long as Opa, right, continues to bring credible experience, you know what I'm saying, industry people like Hi-Tek through here, it can be an experience, learning experience for our, for up-and-comers, right, to learn from someone outside of Omaha, and I just think that it has a trickle-down effect, you know what I'm saying? It just seems a bit more real when you can access someone who you've seen on, you know what I'm saying, bigger platforms and larger stages, right? And I think that helps cultivate, what we're trying to do here. And again, there's this disconnect where national, local, where, and I feel like the more that we make it realistic by bringing cats like this here, and you can see them, you can hear their experiences, then you can relate to them more. Yeah. It'll help you feel okay with where you're at, and then you can, continue to grow yourself. What I hope for is just, people like us keep uplifting the culture. Y'all know, it's like, maybe some of y'all don't, but hip-hop, right? Like, man, just uphold that, right? And as long as you pass that down, right, and you let someone hear that, put them onto this, keep putting people on game, like, man, like, that's just what I hope for, right? And then, continue to be blessed to be in a position to help others, change people's lives, and just keep passing the information, right?
Big up to Omaha, first of all, man.
Woo!
For real, I love what y'all doing. I love what's happening. I love everything I was experienced in the last couple of days out here, and it's a beautiful thing. Just wanted to say thank you to my brother Daniel Jones for making this happen.
Yeah, woo! We miss you, Daniel.
That was a good friend of mine, man. He really wanted me to come out here, and I missed the one in May, so I wanted to make sure I got out here. You know what I mean? And I miss him. We did a lot of music together. It's a dope thing, man. And like personally, 3 to 5 years, and what you should always do is not pigeonhole yourself in the music industry, because there's not much money in music. You should never depend on music. Depend on music to make money. The artistic expression should come first, and just don't be ignorant to business. You should know that you should be paid for your services, and you should be paid for something that you do so much or you spend so much time doing. But there's a fine line between that and putting the business before the music, so to say. So I found myself being that I've been in the game so long. When money gets funny and the industry is shaky with streaming and the rates that we're not getting paid as much as how we were when I first started. So you kind of fall into a situation where you start doing music for the money, and it's like it hinders your lifestyle, and it compromises your integrity of the music, because you could be chasing that next high or chasing that next dollar, and it's like you're using your art to try to get paid. So try to, my thing is, once you try to keep that fine line between creative and business, keep that strong, because it's very important that you not lose the creative part, because, at the end of the day, the industry is not the way it used to be. It's not as fruitful as it used to be. But you can have fun with it if you don't look towards that to get paid. And then revenues that you do make from your creativity, invest it in something else that could support your music career. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, where I'm heavy into real estate and trying to do something to purposely inspire me to be in the studio for those long hours. Because when you're young, you can spend that much time. You can spend hours and hours in the studio because you don't have any bills. But when you get older, you get bills, you got overhead. The more money you make, the more problems you create. And, you kind of mix that in between your creative process and time. So you got to make sure you take what you earn from the music, what you earn from the music industry, and invest it into something that can support your hobby, if that makes sense. It's really important. But, man, I just want to say shout out to Daniel Jones for making this happen, for real.
We miss you, Daniel. Thank you. All right, last question.
Thank you for everything you guys have said so far. Really, though, my question is, what keeps it fresh so that way the creativity that you guys have towards the art is always there and flowing? I know there can be disconnects sometimes, but what keeps it purposeful or motivation? Or what's your motivation? Or I feel like I've heard the answer in what you guys have said, but could you elaborate on that for me?
I think what keeps it fresh is discussions like this, seeing everybody that wants to learn. What keeps it fresh for us, I think in general, with just the reaction we get from the people, from the stuff that we create. When you create music, DJing, especially with DJs, it's like an all-time high when the crowd is dancing. That's like a thing. So that's what keeps it fresh, is when you're able to stay creative and stay doing that next thing, and you just basically working hard at the reaction of the people, the reaction of what you created. Sometimes you fail. You just don't give up. That's the main thing. It's just not giving up. And then when you see like, you know, your hard work pay off, that's for me. That's what keeps it going for me.
No, I think so. Like, just you being interested, just y'all being here, being interested in, you know, what we got to say. But also cats like you, Cashmere, you know, just like younger cats on the come up that's real hungry, you know what I mean, and you know, and they want it. Like, Kaz is a really super dope artist. And it's a lot of dope artists in here, dope DJs, dope producers that I'm looking at right now. And I mean, man, that keeps it going, you know what I mean? For real, so I get inspired by y'all being inspired, you know what I'm saying?
Keeping it fresh. So a concept I've come to understand is like, don't stay young forever, but stay youthful, if that makes sense, right? So like, even where I'm at right now, like being 33, to somebody, my students, I'm an old man. To my mama, I'm a little boy to her. Not a little boy, but I'm her baby boy, you feel me? So when it comes to it, just like staying youthful and like, when it says be youthful, just like being very like open-minded, you know what I'm saying? And like staying true and connected in real time with your experiences, you know what I'm saying? And like, I feel like that's what helps me stay connected to what's going on. It's like living in the moment and like really observing what's going on. And like he said, meeting brothers like you, people like Real out here, you know what I'm saying? It's like the new generation, and I don't feel old yet, you know what I'm saying? So I appreciate y'all, for real.
Yo, can we give it up for the panelists one more time, please? Yes, indeed. Can we also give it up to Kethro for moderating a dope discussion, doing his research per usual? Yes, indeed. So, before we wrap this thing up, I just wanted to just point y'all to all the placards all over y'all tables. So this is a crossover event, a part of our Voices Amplified series. All of these events are free as well, so please come back and see us, see our cultural programming, see the things that we have going on. This year we're elevating Asian American voices, and there will be more with Voices Amplified. But in addition to that, with Hip Hop Lab, our next Culture Talk will be a virtual Culture Talk featuring our own DJ, Get Ejiki with it,
Whoop.
Mr. Eric Ejiki, and he will be interviewing the Curtis Blow virtually the day before hip hop Nutcracker comes to Omaha, November 22nd. So you have these because you all attended tonight. If you are interested in coming to see Hip Hop Nutcracker, which is an amazing show, use this QR code and get you 50% off of those tickets, all right? So before we do this, we need a picture of the panelists. So if the panelists can stand up so our photographer can get a picture, y'all all can grab your pictures as well. And then we'll be here probably just like 10 minutes, y'all, not too much longer, because we got to eat. We got to feed the people, okay? So, but yes, so we go to get this photo with the panelists, and then, yeah, thank y'all again so much. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to the donors, everyone that came out tonight, and we will see y'all at the next lab events. Have a good night.